So good afternoon, Paul, and Happy New Year to you. Thanks so
Good
much for
afternoon.
joining us on Business Owner Spotlight, first of the year. So go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us all about what you do and who your ideal customer would be.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy New Year. So I'm Paul. I'm the creative director and founder of Clever Ghost. Clever Ghost is a brand and design studio, and we specialize in connecting our clients to their clients. And how we do that is, more often than not, we create bespoke identity systems, which comprises of logos, advertising, online, printed materials that allow our customers to effectively communicate with their customer base, their staff, whoever that audience may be, on a daily basis to sort of carry out their business operations.
And so who would be your ideal client then? Is it anybody in business, or is there a certain industry or a certain kind of business you try and work with?
Our skill set can apply to anyone that is looking to communicate. We're visual communicators, but our ideal client would be someone that values design and understands the sort of the value behind having considered branding or marketing materials. And we say that because it leads to the best type of collaboration. We're creative people by nature, and it always ends up in the best results. And when people just have a need to tick a box, say they need a logo or something just to fulfill a quick need, we find that the sort of return on investment isn't as great, because again, it's an exercise. We need to have a flyer, we need to have our logo just on the top of this letterhead. But when a client really values design and understands its impact it can have, the results are better, the work is better, it's more enjoyable, and it ultimately pays dividends to them. So our ideal client is someone that understands the value of branding and considered design, and that's the ones we look for. So, and that could be across any business, any size, any operation, any industry.
And so when you say it's a collaborative approach, so if I turned up and said, look, Paul, just go away and design me a logo, you'd prefer it if we sat down together and designed my logo? Is that what you mean?
100%. We don't need our hands held, but we certainly involve the client at every step. We don't just disappear. Unlike the name Ghost, we don't ghost ourselves. We generally get to understand the client. You know, at the end of the day, they're the experts in their industry, in their field, or in their product or service, and we're experts in design. But we need to understand everything about them. We need to become that extra member of your team. So at the very onset of the project, we would very much be in each other's pockets, just learn about the business, product, service, whatever it may be, to inform ourselves, to put ourselves in your shoes, and then design from that point out. And at every stage, we tend to keep the client up to date. Like I said, we don't like that approach of disappearing and we just magically produce something. We like to let you see the process as well, because at the end of it, you'll have understood the journey, understood those design choices throughout the entire process. Again, it ends up in the results speak for themselves. If we disappear, you won't feel any ownership to it. But when you're part of that process, you feel as if you're the one designing it as well. We design for your end client. But our job is to make our clients love what we produce for them, so that then they champion that brand whenever it gets released into the world. So yeah, we're very collaborative in nature. It helps the creative process, but also builds a stronger bond between us and our clients if they feel part of the process as well.
It sounds really exciting, and if I've got it right from what you're describing, it's a bit of a journey where maybe it evolves, so it looks different from what you thought concept to where it finishes up.
Yeah, you know, we don't know everything. We are experts in design, but we don't know absolutely everything, and we don't always hit the nail on the head straight away. So something that we think might work at the start, maybe gets tried and tested, maybe push it out, maybe we experiment with it, and it can be interesting. Sometimes the end result is very close to what we initially set out, maybe as an initial concept. But through that design process, some feedback and sort of reiterations of a concept, the development takes it to a whole new place. Sometimes the project is miles away from where we started. Sometimes it's not that far, and that's just the beauty of it. It's the fun side of it. You know, whenever we get a brief, we don't know what the end result's going to be. Our heads are kicking with ideas, but as it steps through that process, you can sometimes see we really had a clear idea and a really clear vision at the beginning, or sometimes we find that along the way, and that's again part of the enjoyable process. And when we involve our clients, they see that as well. So whenever there's an aha moment or things like that, they can kind of see where it came from, and nothing's plucked out of thin air.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I say, sounds really exciting. So, how long? You say you're a founder. How long have you been? When did you find Ghost?
2018. The first official day was Halloween 2018.
Yeah,
I think it started
there's a
trading.
lot of links to Ghost here, isn't there?
Well, that's it. It was if you're going to pick a day, I was ready to go in October, and I was transitioning out of a previous design job, and just thought it was the perfect day to open the doors. So that's been going since 2018. And my own background in design, I've been designing since about 2010. So what, 13 odd years, the best part of it. So that's been the journey so far.
And when you say transition out of a previous job, and 31st of October 2018, found your own business. So what's been your biggest learning since you've been a business owner
then? Identifying weaknesses. It's always something I struggle with, and surely you get that sort of old questions like write down your key strengths and key weaknesses. It's hard. People here are very, very good at pointing out weaknesses and stuff like that and your strengths, but I think as a business owner, identifying weaknesses and early on and quickly is essential for a successful business. You need to understand where you're not so good. For me, design and being creative comes naturally. I'm very fortunate that way. Maybe the accountancy side of things and other sort of things that are essential to running the business don't come so naturally to me. And my sort of how I ended up founding Clever Ghost was a response to the demand for design. It was never I'll set up a business and then design's my service. It was kind of, oh, people need work, I'll do the work. And then all of a sudden you discover, well, actually you need to start sorting out your accounts, you need to start keeping records of things, you need to then start networking, you need to do all these other things that are essential to run a business. So for me, my biggest learning was understanding what I didn't know about business, and then finding that out, sort of learning as I went along. So yeah, that's
so a bit of a
it's a continuous one.
And your story is quite a common one. People are good at what they do and they end up doing that in their business, but then it's the business of business that they struggle with. So I mean, that's all. Identifying the weaknesses around accounts and maybe some marketing or networking. But what have you actually learned about yourself then?
That I can run a business. We've been going 4 years. I think I look back on it and go, I actually have it in me to run a business and get this far. I think I surprised myself really. I think at the very start it still felt like a freelance job. I've been doing that for years. Taking on sort of hand-picked little projects that interested me, and then stepping out in 2018. This is a business. This is my day job now. Can I do this? I just kind of went, oh, it's freelancing, but it's a little bit more serious. And then eventually it was like, once I started doing all, like you said, the business of business, I sort of realized that actually I can do this. And now I think the way I think about things now is as a business owner, rather than a graphic designer that was trying to have a full-time career.
Sure.
So my sort of my perspective of it has changed a little bit. So I think for me, what I've learned about myself is that I am able to run a business and I have the business head on me now. Whereas at 2018, I was very much a graphic designer.
Yes.
Graphic designer's head on me, trying to make a living.
It's that mind shift, isn't it? As you say, you're now on paper you're a business owner, but in reality now your mindset you're a business owner.
Yeah, 100%.
And just the phrase "you don't know what you don't know." Do you think that sort of naivety of not knowing made it easier to step out? If you had known everything you know now, would you be more daunted by the task?
100%, absolutely. There's pros and cons to sort of needing to learn whenever you need to learn something.
Sure.
And finding out the hard way when someone messages you and says this is due or you need to do this or that sort of thing. But yeah, I certainly would have found it a lot more daunting if I had have been told in every aspect this is what it entails. Sure. Stepping out as a graphic designer full time, to me this is my job. It'll continue as such. Where it's really taking on 3 jobs. You've got to do the work, you got to look for the work, and then you've got to do all the admin that is produced by doing the work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I probably would have delayed maybe the launch of the business in essence. I would have taken time to put in a lot of the processes and the things behind the scenes.
Sure.
Whereas maybe my first year was playing catch up whenever circumstances sort of arose that made me think, actually, I need this, the project manager, or I need this bit of software, or I need this to run the business. Yeah, probably would have taken a little bit of time to sort of set that up because I literally started day one, laptop and away I went.
Yeah. So it would be what you're describing is a little bit more planning to be proactive instead of reactive.
100%, yeah.
Cool. No, I mean, it makes sense. Makes sense. And if you were to start the business again, and appreciate there are tons of things that you've done and had to do, but for anybody listening, if there was just one single thing that you could go back in time and do differently, is there one thing, one system, or one single thing that you would pick out that you just have to have in place before you start your business?
It's something that I currently do, and that's keep a business roadmap. I don't like saying business plan.
Sure.
It's too mature for myself. But a roadmap, something that sort of identifies goals, targets, and a strategy of how to get there. Because like I said, stepping out day one was very reactive to work. And it was kind of playing catch up of where do I go now. Having a business plan, having a roadmap, having some idea of where you want to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it may be, it keeps you focused.
Yeah.
Because it can get very busy, and there's a lot of noise, and there's, especially at the very start, there's little downtime to try and think beyond what you're physically doing at that moment in time.
Yeah.
One thing I certainly found was just, I remember doing like a business sort of workshop where you wrote a business plan, but it was a 3, 5, and 10 year plan, which felt very far away from me. And it was actually a business mentor that I got put in touch with that basically said, make it a roadmap, where's your destination for the next week, 3 months, whatever it may be, break it down into smaller sort of chunks, and just keep that very current. So it's something that I work on often, quite regularly, that I'll update it and sort of add things into it, and I can react within that, whereas a business plan felt a little bit more set in stone.
Yes.
This little roadmap, it's a single page. It's something that literally jots down a few goals and targets, and how to get there. So definitely, I would say a business plan of some description, some idea of where you want to head to, and how to get there.
Just if you know your destination, the journey's shorter, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what does the future look like for you guys, and what do you see as the main challenges moving forward then?
The future looks very good, very optimistic. We recently moved into new offices here on the Lisbon Road, which brought with it expansion of the team. We brought in a student on placement and a junior designer full time as well. We bring the team up to 3. And the plans for the future are to continue that. We want to grow the team a little bit more, bring in more creatives, and then look to sort of sustain the future as well. Now that things are opening up, people are a little bit more prepared to commit to their own marketing plans and strategies and things like that. And we want to be a part of that. The world is evolving, and we need to be a part of it to make sure that people are communicating effectively and things like that. So I think the plan for Clever Ghost is to sort of sheer up the next couple of years. They onboard some sort of a client that allows us to maintain a relationship long term. COVID meant that a lot of clients were very short term, very reactive. Now we're looking for the future and tying that stuff down.
Very good. Sounds brilliant. And just last question then to finish up. If you could go back in time and speak to an 18-year-old Paul, what one piece of advice would you give him?
Learn as much as you can from people that are around you, no matter when that is. When I think back about the people that have maybe been in my sort of circle of influence and people who have been close to me, whether that be lecturers, family members, people I've met along the way through jobs and things out there was a wealth of knowledge and experience around me. And now I'm very appreciative of the people that are sort of in my connections and sort of network and things like that there. But at the time, I shudder to think of what experience and wealth of knowledge I've let slip past me.
Sure.
And it's very easy for someone at 18 that maybe doesn't have a direction, or maybe doesn't appreciate the sort of value of the knowledge around them. But I would certainly say that whenever there's an opportunity to learn, take it.
Take it. Yeah, have that open mind and always be looking to absorb it. Yeah, listen, absolutely brilliant. And really enjoyed your story, and thanks so much for coming on and sharing it with us today.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.